is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse, hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. He's got enough source books to build his own source wall, Stu Horvath.
So many source books.
Yeah, I had to dig deep for that one, man. Like, that's like, some Jack Kirby, Fourth World, layers upon layers there. How you doing, man?
Yeah, hanging in there. Before we get started,
Yes.
really quick. Last year, around this time, the WFMU Marathon was going on, and during that time, Ken Friedman, who is the station manager there, said that one of the things he would like on the station was a show about games. So me and Sarah Clemens threw our hat in the ring, and we've been a part of the WFMU community ever since, and it's been really cool. They are the greatest radio station in the galaxy. And freeform radio, there are very few rules, and it is entirely listener supported. The marathon is going on again as we speak. They need to raise money to keep the station going for another year, and it's fun if you tune in right now. Every DJ has a partner, so there's a lot of gabbing and joking and horsing around, and it's very fun and silly and chaotic, and you should throw some bucks to them. They will celebrate you on the air if you donate during a show, and you get some really great swag. There's t-shirts and a cool sweatshirt. They finally did a zip-up hoodie, which I'm excited about because I don't do pullovers. Yeah, there's just a ton of cool stuff. The DJs make mix CDs, if you're familiar with their shows, that reflect their shows. There's a lot of cool stuff. It's you can throw $5 to it, $20 to it, win some prizes, and feel good about yourself and support something cool in the world that would not exist without your support. So if you do that, WFMU.org, or if you're local to North Jersey, 91.1 FM on the radio, there's a phone number you can call in for live stuff. Most of you are going to be listening online at WFMU.org. And you could just sort of click the pledge button. It's also directly on the vintagerpg.com site and on Winnable. You can find it everywhere I am. It's a worthy cause, so support it.
You know what's cool, man? I think that, like, when people talk about our show and they're like, oh, man, they'll never, they're realistic, they're never going to make it to New Jersey, getting out to one of the Geek Fleas, which, by the way, is happening April 18th.
April 18,
which is right around the corner, and the Geek Flea is right around the corner from where we are. It is a super fun experience, and it's a great way to pick up some cool stuff that is within the window and the purview of everything that we talk about on the show, from RPGs to games to toys to old video games to weird tchotchkes and artwork. Even rocks, if the rock guy's going to be there this year. A lot of cool stuff, man. A lot of cool stuff. Can't stress enough how cool it is. It's free to get in. It's one day only from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in New Jersey. Plus, there's plenty of great place to eat around here, so you can't go wrong if you're in the area. But I digress. One thing I'm going to mention is that, people, they're not going to make it to New Jersey. Most people aren't going to make it to New Jersey. And, you always hear about, the weird things that are happening in New Jersey. In fact, there's a magazine dedicated to the weird shit that happens in New Jersey, aptly titled Weird New Jersey. But I love the fact that anywhere in the world, you can listen to WFMU streamed live. And you get that real, true Jersey weird experience, because WFMU is weird as hell, man.
It is.
And weird as hell in the best and most complimentary way I could think of it. And I like that a piece of New Jersey can go anywhere. So definitely consider getting on board with this, the pledge drive, and just listen to WFMU in general. Even when Stu's not on, but you should listen when Stu's on. But even when he's not on, it's a dope, very Jersey experience, and I wish it for the world.
And we have a role-playing game to talk about, so I won't belabor this. But there's very few places, I think, that you could listen to radio and get an idea of radio as a medium or art form anymore. Most of it is corporate radio or public radio, which is underwritten, and all of that stuff is just like, it's radio, but it's not like radio. Radio can be super weird and strange, and there's an ethos in the freeform format that just like is constantly introducing you to new stuff and pushing your boundaries. A lot of it's weird. A lot of it's not to my taste. But I often am just like wandering. We have that on in the kitchen all the time. And I have bought so many records because I hear a snatch of a song and I'm just like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I never would have heard it otherwise. And like you get it because there's a DJ who's willing to put it on the radio and they don't have any kind of corporate oversight saying why they shouldn't play that song. And that's great. But also, like, there was one moment in the marathon. I've only been throwing WFMU money for like 3 or 4 years. I've been listening since high school. But there was a moment at Ken's show, he's the station manager. All he was doing was playing covers of Dancing Queen by ABBA. And it was like maddening. But he got to this one, and it was a field recording of a girl in a bathroom stall, apparently at a prom, crying while Dancing Queen was playing in the gym. So she's just sort of sobbing, and like you could hear like that way that music gets distant and like it makes it weird, because it's the next room over. So that's going on, and like I thought it was just amazing, and it goes on forever. And at the same time, my co-host Sarah, her husband was like, just got in the car to go someplace to run an errand, and he like calls Sarah up and he's just like, there's something really weird going on the radio. I don't know what to do. Like, do we call the police? Like, is this is somebody's just crying on the radio and it seems like something's terribly wrong? So I'm sitting there laughing at this in my kitchen because it's just so ridiculous and over the top because I understand the context. But Neil is in his car thinking it's an emergency. Yeah. And like, that's the beauty of WFMU. It's one of my favorite, like, I've never had a radio experience like that before. And you probably haven't either, but you can find similar things on FMU anytime.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's not an audio drama version of a snuff film. That's just independent radio in New Jersey.
Like,
I think I broke Stu.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just I think about that all the time. He recently Ken is like an interesting brain, and I'm fascinated by his choices. He recently played. I had to email him to find out where I could hear it. It was like in the middle of his regular show, and he just like, it's Miserlou by Dick Dale from Pulp Fiction fame, and it starts, and then it's just the first two, it starts, and then it's the first 2 seconds, and then it just repeats for like a minute, and there was no release or resolution, and it's just like I kept thinking about it days and days later, weeks later, and I tried to find it. They have playlists online and archives, so like everything's there, but I couldn't find it. So I emailed him, and he immediately emails me back. He's like, it was called Miserlou, but it never starts, and you can find it on YouTube. Let me know if you can. And I found it immediately, and I've been listening to it on and off, but it's so funny. It's like 2 minutes. It never gets to the drums or the whoops or anything. It's just like that initial 2 or 3 note, and it just kind of goes on. It's amazing. I never would have found it without WFMU.
Amazing. So we're actually going to talk about an RPG now.
So I don't think that we've actually talked about Vaesen at all on the show. I've posted about it on the site a couple times. It is a free league game spinning out of their Year Zero system. So it's very similar in structure to Tales from the Loop, Mutant Year Zero, Alien even, and I'm pretty sure Blade Runner is the same basic, they have a chaos kind of vibe to their system. Vaesen is sort of like their answer to like a Call of Cthulhu-y kind of horror sort of game. You're investigating, it's a little bit like Hellboy, actually. Hellboy is maybe the best corollary that I could think of. That's not what the word corollary means, but we're going to just roll with it. So actually, it spins out of an art book by Johan Egerkrans. And he put out a book called Vaesen in 2013. It's a gorgeously illustrated monster book, basically, collecting some figures from folklore and myth from the northern Europe. I believe he's Swedish, but a lot of his stuff also draws from Norwegian legend. There's also trolls and
Yeah.
knock, those kinds of things. Knockin', I love that painting by Kittleman, where it's sort of rising out of the lake or the pond with all the lilies, and it's just you just see the silhouette of its head and the glowing eyes. So he does this monster book. It's beautiful, it's interesting, and Free League sort of uses that as the jumping off point for a role-playing game of which he is the primary art director. He has a pool of artists who work with him, and the art direction is such that if you put all the books in front of me, I can eventually tell you, okay, that's Johann's work and these are the other fellows. But at this point, removed from having looked at the books for a little while, I couldn't tell you the difference. I can't pick out who's who. So that's kind of cool. And the idea is that the supernatural world is real but hidden, and modernization and industrialization has pushed the borders of human civilization out such that they abut the borders of the supernatural world, and friction occurs. So unlike, say, Call of Cthulhu, where you're sort of sussing out these supernatural threats, there's sort of a lot of the underlying tensions are unintentional. Things that have been left alone in their quiet, lonely places are now living in places that are less quiet and lonely, and their natural behavior towards the mundane world is threatened and violent and causes confusion and chaos, and the investigators are trying to resolve those tensions. I mean, you could turn it into a monster hunting game, I guess, but I think that there's sort of an emotional tension where it's just like, or it's sort of like a conservationist sort of ethos that's built into the game. Something that happens a lot over and over in later Hellboy stories is that Hellboy is a monster hunter, and in the first several arcs, he's constantly disposing of creatures that threaten humanity. But those creatures have had long and storied lives and often were just continuing to do what they've always done. It's just their nature. And that gets voiced later in the story. It's just like, you are a monster who has killed monsters who are just doing what they were created to do. That sort of makes, in the eyes of the supernatural world, it sets Hellboy up to be a betrayer. And I think about that a lot in Hellboy, because every time Hellboy defeats a monster in the story, the world becomes less magical and interesting, right?
It really does, yeah.
And yeah, a lot of that magic and interest comes from danger to mortal lives, but it is still a less magical place. A lot of that tension is baked into Vaesen, and it's set primarily in Northern Europe. So for somebody like me, who's an American, who has a lot of British influence in my aesthetics and my cultural interests, Vaesen is sort of removed. It's familiar enough because it's the aftermath of the Viking culture and all that sort of thing, but it's still different in a way that's interesting. Makes it a little bit more exotic to me, which is cool on one side, but also like a little harder for me to run because I feel like this really clicks if you're from Northern Europe.
Right.
And I mean, I think that like it's fine if I run Vaesen and it doesn't click like that, but I think that like this is a homegrown game for Northern Europeans, and it hits differently for them. So that's why a couple years ago, 2022, when they released the Mythic Britain and Ireland source book, I was really excited. I kickstarted it. I don't do that anymore for Free League games. I just wait until they're in the store and then I buy them.
So I just gotta get it off the bench, though, man.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta just grab it and then wait for it. But it's a great book. It did not disappoint me at all. I think that, and I'm echoing what I wrote about it last year or the year before. I think that there's two places that seem particularly well suited for a Vaesen-like source book. where there is an inherent geographical mix of the mundane and the supernatural. And one is the British Isles, and the other is Malaysia, as presented in stuff like A Thousand Islands. Really sold me on the idea that there's just like no border really between those two worlds, that they're really just, you could constantly be walking right into a supernatural or folkloric context in both places. It's that idea that, there's places where the boundary between worlds is super thin, right? Like, we have that cliche because there are places that people have believed were easy to pass between worlds. And like fairy lore is like that, but there's English ghost story tradition. There's just a lot to draw from, and so much of it is baked into the standing stones and the other prehistoric megalithic monuments. There's just a connection between this idea of something more just beneath the surface or just out of sight, out of the corner of your eye in England, in Britain and Ireland. It's not just England, I say, as a person who's primarily Scottish.
Right.
The English are the problem. It's just a fantastic sort of distillation of a lot of things that, if you're interested in British folklore and Irish folklore, if you're interested in those things, if you love ghost stories for Christmas, if Count Magnus is your favorite M.R. James story, even if you're interested in the context of something like Through the Hedgerow, where you're looking at young reader fiction that deals with the boundaries between worlds, like Susan Cooper's Dark is Rising or the Alan Gardner books, or even some C.S. Lewis stuff, the hauntology and psychogeography of England, of Britain. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of reasons why, but it's British. Because it's totality. A lot of the weirdest stuff is in Wales, in the borderland between England and Wales. Certainly the more vicious fairies are from Scotland. I would say that the one sort of flaw in the entire source book is that the Knuckleavee illustration is really cool, but it's not quite correct. I love the Knuckleavee because it's just such a messed up monster. It's a horse and rider that is actually fused. It is one creature. So it has like two torsos and two heads.
Right.
And it doesn't have any skin. The illustration here, and I'm not sure if it's Egerkrans or one of his pool of artists, but it lacks the horse head, which is simplifying. It makes you like understand the monster a little bit easier. It's like an easier silhouette to comprehend. But that sort of, in doing that, you sort of lose a lot of the thing's messed upness. But yeah, so it's Graeme Davis wrote the book. It was a long time desire of his. In the introduction, he says that he's always wanted to write a book like this, and I think that the passion for that desire to do this really comes through. Davis is a longtime game designer who's one of the contributors of the original Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. He wrote one of my favorite fighting fantasy novels, Midnight Rogue. He's been around the block, primarily Warhammer, but this is one of the most recent things that he's written that I've read, and it's just fantastic. You get an excellent primer on the British supernatural geography, bestiary, and 3 scenarios that really push that Vaesen feel of no clear answers, no black and white morality, and a clash of cultures where there's no right path or easy answers. All beautifully illustrated by Egerkrans and his crew. What more could you want?
Not much. Sounds great to me. It's definitely like a thing where, when I initially saw the book cover to the main system, I thought it was going to be like a Hellboy-esque fighting game,
Yeah.
But it's very cool to hear that they went in the other direction of the Hellboy-esque kind of system, where there is that exploration aspect of it. There is that like much deeper world of lore.
Yeah. What? Man, I just read Mark Valentine. Jamie at Strange Attractor basically put this guy in front of my face. He's like a critic and short story writer, and like he loves a lot of the same British literature, supernatural literature that I really love and have gotten increasingly into in the last couple of years. But he has a book that is a quote. The title is a quote from an Arthur Machen, and I hope that's how you pronounce it, because I guess it could also be Macon, but that would really mess me up, because I've always thought it was Machen. A Country Still All Mystery is the title of the book, and it's basically, a collection of introductions about horror stuff. But it's a quote from Machen, and I just think that really distills this sort of idea of the supernatural geography of Britain, a country still all mystery. That even in the 21st century, there are this feeling of permeability where anything can happen, where valleys can eat you, and you can run afoul of dark things at night. And it's cool.
I mean, it sounds cool. Sounds like something I would definitely be into.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Cool. So then, I mean, there's no final thoughts on?
I mean, my final thought is you should probably check out this book. It's a good one.
Sometimes you just put it right over the plate, and I like that.
I feel like a lot of the time, like I'm searching for like a big picture, like, oh, we got to like have a moral at the end of the story. And like sometimes a book's just good, man, and I got to recommend it. This is I have a reason why, but I can't tell you that reason why I'm thinking about this book. Maybe in a couple weeks. But no, it's just a great book. As soon as I got it, I read it cover to cover, and I loved it. And if you're into I feel like there's different stews that you get if you're following vintage RPG. There's like the pure vintage RPG stew, and then there's like occultist stew, and then there's like British ghost story and horror stew, which is distinct from like a broader horror stew. Because it's not always horror with the British Isles. There's just something weird and numinous about it that I find the distinction. If you're into that part, the stew that's into like reading Alan Gardner and Susan Cooper novels, and then this is the role-playing game for you.
And if you like the idea of different kinds of stew, stay tuned for a line of Stu Horvath action figures from Super7.com.
It's just a different flannel.
It's all different flannels.
Because everything else stays the same. Like it's like a black T-shirt and a different color flannel.
Different color flannel. The card art's different, but it's basically the same sculpt, different flannel. Maybe
numinous Britain. That sort of implies walking. So maybe I'll have a short sleeve shirt and a hat
and sunglasses. There you go.
Yeah,
that'll change it up a bit. Well, before we go home on this episode, Hambone's Crowdfunding Corner, you heard me talk about the Meow Wolf role-playing game Tavers last week. It dropped. It's on Kickstarter. It's funded. By the time you hear this episode, it's probably going to be funded. So definitely worth checking out. My buddy Tiger Wizard wrote it alongside the lore master from Meow Wolf, Michael J. Wilson. There are a ton of great artists on this. This is truly a unique gaming experience, something that will definitely kind of put you in the headspace to go and explore a place like Meow Wolf. So definitely check it out over on Kickstarter right now. Tavers, the role-playing game, by my buddy Tiger Wizard. All right, there's another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG podcast. Dude, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me at vintagerpg.com. Anything particularly interesting going on over there? I have a whole primer on how to paint miniatures that I really have been sitting on. I need to get that up. I did all the miniatures, and I've been painting lots of miniatures.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, like little so I have so many fun ones. I'm looking at a whole bunch of the finished ones right now, and like I love miniatures, man. Y'all need to join the Patreon at the highest tier and expect nothing from it except that it will allow me to paint more miniatures. We should just have like $100 tier. It's like Stu needs money so that he could just paint miniatures all day.
We'll just put a 24-hour feed on you in the garage. Just watching just the joy of painting very slowly.
Getting back to FMU for 1 second, they do ridiculous things on the radio, and in the back of my head, I have wanted to do, like, if we get a regular spot, we have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. But if we ever are lacking for ideas, I do want to just paint miniatures on the radio, because I think it's absolutely absurd, because it's such a quiet thing to do. I would have to resort to some sort of Bob Ross kind of like stream of consciousness monologue that I think that would be ridiculous. And then I'd get fired, which is, then I'd have some more time.
Yeah. To paint minis.
To paint minis, yeah.
You'd have like weird mood music in the background. You'd be like, wow, just got done with the wash.
Right.
All right, the gray wash is done. And finally dry on this miniature bugbear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get most people would think that a bugbear is brown, but I'm going to make it a burnt sienna. I'm going to give it a little more pop. So you see it maybe coming in the forest. Something to stand out against the brush. Speaking of brushes, I'm going to be using a fine, I don't even fucking know. I don't paint minis.
This is exactly the vibe, but also you have to remember that Sarah will be there as my co-host.
But that's the best part.
Like, they'll have to be like, why are you doing this? like just shouting and like being upset. I feel like it would just be like, how are we?
It's like, God, if I'm going to be here, at least let me paint a mini too. Just sitting in the corner watching you. It's weird.
I just think that it would become, it might be my greatest moment if it ever happens.
Here's to it. This is another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can people find you on the internet?
We did that part already, but I will add. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's how we got here. But
I'll say, so dialed in with the painting of the mini.
I just want to mention that I want to put out there that if there was a miniature painting Stu action figure, the only difference would be the fact that he would be wearing black rubber gloves. Everything, it would just be like
surgical, very, very, very serious. I like this. You can find me across the internet, John McGuire RPG. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. If you want to pick up any of my awesome books, things that I worked on, things I've contributed to, check out HammoneEggPublishing.com. The kink with the DNS should be worked out, or whatever the thing is that sends it from like the site to the other site. But that was weird. That was a whole friggin' thing. But yeah, HammoneEggPublishing.com is where all of the books are. We got some new things coming soon. I got a second edition of Crowdfund Your Fucking Life coming out. Reorganized, some things tweaked up, some art, public domain art, and some other weird art in there that I found. It's definitely a cool experience. I'm definitely excited to be putting that out. And if you are on DriveThruRPG, it is FREE 99, free 99 in PDF form. If you're going to buy it from me directly, though, it's going to be a $10 because a tree had to die for that. So if I got to whack a tree, you got to pay. HammoneEggPublishing.com. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, want to bring up a patron, patreon.com/vintagerpg. We got a lot of cool stuff going on over on our Patreon, including early release episodes for as little as $1 a month and a killer Discord community, which is truly an oasis from the world outside your window. We'd love for you to be a part of it. Patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor. Thanks for listening. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Schaefer Brown. Edited by R. Alex Murray. Check us out at vintagerpg.com.